particularly, but we're all getting the message. So here's a big shout out to some potential content, which is Natty Bud Light on YouTube. Is anyone here familiar with that user?
Yes. So actually, let me show you a little something. Seeing ask ancap screen share. There we go. Yeah, so I've actually got this little folder with things I'm planning to react to on stream, and I've got a little subfolder specifically for Natty Bud Light. Also, I'm not sure why I still have the chat in this scene. Obviously, that's not going to fucking work because I'm on a different channel.
Oh, well, there you go. I hope that you don't regret the super chat now, because clearly that is totally redundant. All right, let's move on to our next caller. We've got so many callers today. Thanks so much, everybody. We've even got some callers who are not ANCAPs for once, like Soren earlier. So exciting. Let me check in with our co-host. How's everyone holding up over there? Is everyone okay? Does everyone need hydration?
I'm a little cold. If you could give me like a tea or something whenever you're able.
I'm gonna put Anarcho Econ on that.
What's your favorite tea?
I've actually, there's this company called Tea Pigs. If you're in the UK, I don't know if they ship outside the UK, but they have a really nice chai, which is very delicious. That's probably my favorite.
Chai is good. I'm from the South, so whatever tea you give me, just fill it full of sugar. It's what us Americans love.
In the south of the US, I think you guys do a lot more like iced teas where it's got all sorts of different stuff in there.
Yeah,
we're a lot more straightforward. Tea in this country is basically you pour the boiling water into the tea bag, maybe add a little bit of milk and some like a couple of sugars. But yeah, no, in the US it looks like crazy style stuff they got going on there. It's like a milkshake, but tea.
That's what we love.
I have to say the Southern sweet tea is addicting. I mean, I'll drink like half of an entire gallon jug in like a couple days, or like a day. So.
Oh, have you heard of Milo's?
No, I'm not from down south, but we have our imitation crap up here. I'm in the north, but I'm sure it's much better.
Dude, I could drink a half a gallon in a single day, man. It is crack, truly.
All right, enough. We're moving on to our next call now. What ridiculousness. All right, we're moving on to our next caller. This is Diogo, who is calling in to ask about, if I remember correctly, you have a question about special economic zones. Diogo, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I certainly can. All right, so it's been a little while. You've been in queue for a long time. Thanks for waiting. If you wouldn't mind, I think it'd be best if you just asked your question outright, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I just want to ask, like, what is the vision of ancap about these special economic zones? Because I had an ancap friend that used the SEZ from China as an example of free market and the low influence of the state in the economy. And I'm not an ancap, I'm the opposed, I'm a fascist, but I certainly believe that SEZs, the special economic zones, are very beneficial, but I don't see them as an example of anarcho-capitalistic society. And I just want to know the vision of you guys about this, about the SEZs.
I want to hand it to Floppa first, but before I do that, I think I just want to help Floppa out here. Could you add to your question, what is it you think is a characteristic of these special economic zones that makes them different from ANCAP?
This is a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. The fact that there is a state. The fact that the state works on the infrastructure and those public works, like building roads, infrastructure, energy, and those kind of things. I'm pretty sure that the SEZs from China aren't like stateless. And I am not sure if they are like ultra liberal or ANCAP in some way. I really don't know the difference between those, but I see that the fact that there is a state that is just like working on low influence, if it's the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm not particularly sure about all of the mechanisms of the special economic zones in China specifically, but I think a better question is which direction do we want to be moving in? Because we see that these special economic zones clearly have less state regulation than I guess the rest of China or whatever, or the certain parts. So if we see that deregulating it is leading to, I believe China's special economic zones are like massive, and we can see that historically when they were implemented, like these were essentially like farm villages, and then they got turned into these, massive cities essentially. So I just don't understand why we would want to move away from that, or like the free market direction seems to be providing us the most prosperous scenario for these places. So I'll pass it on to Anarch or Econ because he could probably elaborate a bit further on this.
I mean, yeah, these zones are certainly not anarchist. They're under the wing of the Chinese state. So I'm guessing if you tried to say, I'm going to set up my own arbitration firm, and we're not going to care about any of the Chinese laws, and we're going to care about the NAP, then you certainly I'm sure the government would come in and stop you. But it's more so to the extent we adopt these the premises that these economic zones have been founded on, you'll have a more prosperous society. So if you look at this is the error of regression theory, specifically where do these economic zones come from? Well, it's the Chinese government going in and saying, we can't solve problems. Actually, the government can't solve problems. And so if they consistently applied the premises that led to these economic zones, I suspect you probably would live in an ancap society fairly soon after people applied that. But it isn't an exact parallel.
What do you think about that, Diogo?
Yeah, I think this enlightened me. So, yeah, just make sure you could choose to live in a society like this, and that will be enough, or like there is a barrier that we need to cross to achieve the true ancap society.
I would say we would want to go a step farther and get rid of the entire Chinese government influence, and completely leave it up to the market and the non-aggression principle. But they're on the right track essentially.
That's okay for me.
I will say on these special economic zones, they are just a complete and utter ceding of the argument to capitalism. It is just a total acknowledgement that capitalism is indeed superior. And we saw this in the Soviet Union as well. They had to look to outside prices to do their planning, which means that, well, in fact, they don't know how to discover the prices. So if they succeeded and the entire world went communist, I'm not sure exactly what external prices they're going to be looking at. And of course, the Chinese solution to this, to gain access to Western markets and gain access to some amount of that prosperity, is with these special economic zones. And then they get access to the Western goods and all that, and then they can do their planning better. It's just a complete capitulation of the entire argument. And well, if capitalism is so good and works so well to that degree, why the hell wouldn't it work to a full degree? That's kind of the lingering question, which no state can possibly answer. Because I think on some level, a lot of them understand that, yeah, they do have more prosperity if they liberalize, if they pull off a little bit, but they still want their goodies, right? So they want to have a certain level of liberalization, but not full liberalization, because then they would have to actually start competing.
Yeah, I like your answers. Like, it's very enough for me. Thank you for the answers.
Certainly. Well, let me just say, because I don't want you to go too fast here, we're very excited to have somebody who identifies as a fascist to come in. So before you go, and if you have anything else you're going to say too, please, you can get that in there as well. But I really want to know, you had, you're coming from a fascist point of view. You got this perception of ANCAP, and you see a relationship between, ANCAP is or isn't good for whatever reasons, and there's some sort of special economic zones have some role to play in that. I'm wondering personally, did you feel before calling in, or do you still feel that there's something about special economic zones that potentially offer a refutation to ANCAP? And if you do feel that way, I was wondering if you'd share with us what that looks like.
My vision on the economy and how it's handled, it's that the special economic zones are very good if you broke the law in copyright. It's not copyright. I don't know. Like the intellectual property. Like you abolish it, so your government can steal the blueprints from those SEZs. And I see this as a something good for the fascist government, because they can create a project that will lead the economy. China does this. The mainland China uses the SEZs to store blueprints, and that's for me. China is fascist, you know. So I believe that it's not. I'm not an ancap. I don't believe that the SEZs are in somehow an ancap way, to a liberal way to get to the uncapped society, but I believe that they are like pillars to hold the fascist economy. I made myself clear.
A question. If SEZs are so good and they can stand as these pillars of the fascist economy, would you be opposed to having the entire region be under those same rules? And then you could have so many pillars. You could probably have like a super tall building if you had that many pillars. Like, why not have it applied everywhere?
Because I believe that this weakens the fascist state, and I believe that China today is growing to be the next.
So then the fascist state is in fact opposed to the people. It is opposed to the prosperity of the people, because we've already established that these special economic zones, they are the pillars of productivity and prosperity, but it's at the expense of the fascist state, which I would completely agree. It is at the expense of the fascist state. But then the question is, why is the fascism more important than the prosperity?
I don't say that. I see the fascist government a way to achieve prosperity to everyone.
Using SEZs?
As a tool, not the main goal. You know, we use them to steal blueprints.
Prosperity is coming from the special economic zones.
Because we use them to steal blueprints.
All the prosperity from those zones. So they are the source of the prosperity. They are the fountainhead. So why do we need the people downstream who are sucking it all away? Why not just have that fountainhead be everywhere?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question that I cannot answer now.
Let me just jump in here, if I may. Anarcho-econ, are you familiar with the economic calculation problem?
Certainly.
Would you do me a favor and ask our caller here, Diogo, how a fascist society knows the right amount of anything to produce? I'd be really interested in hearing that between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, this claim that the fascist government is somehow going to bring about prosperity. I mean, how, right? Fundamentally, prosperity needs to be achieved by producing something. And, you know, how does the fascist government know what to produce given the ECP? I mean, and maybe, Diogo, maybe you are unfamiliar with the ECP and we can elucidate, you know, exactly what it is to you. But if you are familiar with the ECP, I'll just ask you, I mean, how does the fascist government know what to produce? How can it reduce scarcity, which is, you know, in line with increasing prosperity?
We are not against private property. So the market is still present in the fascist economy. The difference is that the fascist state, he sort of control the lack of the economy, the things that are lacking in the economy. Like if we have a big deficit in iron for some reason, we can make a project that will bring capital to produce more iron. You see, it's not a total planet, but it's not full liberal. I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear, because my words in English are very little.
Well, the question that he's getting at, like a central question here is, so yes, it's easy enough to say we don't have enough iron, we need to put more capital to it. The problem that is being gotten here is that everything, we could always have more of anything. It's very difficult for us, especially if you're in a socialist economy. You're very rarely going to have an objectively too much of something. So the question is, it's not enough. There isn't just capital that we just pull out of the air. We need it. Everything has an opportunity cost. It comes from somewhere else. So if you're going to take capital and put it to the iron mine, you need to be able to know what it's coming away from. So you're going to say, okay, well, if we send a certain amount of capital to a certain mine, we'll get a certain amount more of that mine's product, but we're going to get a certain amount less of the other things. So we're like, I think for people who aren't familiar with the economic calculation problem, they don't understand. And I don't want to make that assumption about you, Diogo, but it's very easy to just say, oh, we don't have enough iron and we have too much corn, so we're going to just we'll take capital at a corn production, put it in the iron production. What we're invoking here, what we're trying to invite everybody to consider is, we're not giving you that. We're asking, how do you know when it's better to take capital from one production and put it to another? What process reveals to you that that is an appropriate action to take?
Can I perhaps even further clarify that? Let's say we know that, let's just grant, for the sake of argument, that you've got perfect knowledge on the wants of all consumers. You've got like Star Trek chips in their brain. You know exactly what everybody wants. You know, okay, well, we need more iron to produce these pans. People really want iron pans for their specific properties or whatever. Okay, how do you know the best way to get that iron? Because there are multiple different ways you could get iron. You could go down into a mine with pickaxes and take it out that way. You could go down into the mine. You could have like massive open mines where you just blow everything up. And, you know, how do you transport that iron? Well, you can use a railroad. Okay, but which route should the railroad take? Should it go around the mountain? Should it go through the mountain, going around? Well, that's going to cost more resources, physical resources, but less engineering time. Whereas going through the mountain, fewer resources, way more engineering time. How do you know how to balance up all these different things? So it's not even necessarily how do you know what to produce. What we're claiming is that the central planner has no possible means, or maybe he does, if you could tell us, what possible means does the central planner have to know the best way to produce those final goods, right? How does he select between these processes without going, okay, well, this line of production is making a loss, we need to fix this?
I really don't know how to answer this question, and I really don't know which part of my thinking will be wrong. But I stand out for 5-year plans. I believe that they can have a better understanding of the characteristics of the economy and the problems within the economy. So when I say that, oh, we are lacking, we need more iron, I mean, we need more iron to produce something that the government has planned before. So this is a problem that we will not have like in the exact same moment. We need to learn how to fix it. It's a problem that we will predict, and the Chinese government do this today. So I don't think that it is impossible to conceive a society where you can predict your market, your economy, if it's controlled. Of course, the prices you will not control. Who will control? This is the market. We will not like control 100% of this. I'm not sure if the that problem, I forgot totally the name, pressing this key of we don't know the price or we don't know how to rearrange the capital without it doing for itself. So I'm pretty confused in my own words.
Well, we appreciate you fielding the question for us. Is that Floppa? Because I was going to hand it over to Floppa.
Yeah, I would just like to say that it's completely fine that you don't know how a state would manage this, because not even the states know how they would manage this problem. So you're not alone in that. But that's why we're presenting the case that the free market is actually the best determiner to how to solve the ECP at the end of the day.
It's okay. I will study about this.
Well, Mr. Diogo, it was a pleasant hearing from you. I really appreciate hearing from anybody who's not an ANCAP, and we've had a load of them today, which is a really nice change. It was always it was very pleasant and respectful. I encourage you, anytime that you have something you'd like to talk about, a challenge for us or a question, please feel free to call back in. We're going to move to the next caller, but before we do, I'd like you to have the last word.
No, it's okay.